Thank you everyone. Listen, it's wonderful to be here in person. It's wonderful just to be able to get out. So, I mean, as Gary said, this is resilience. The fact that we're all here today, the fact that we've kept going and we're just being who we are. So, it is amazing what we've all gone through. 2 years, you know, if it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, who would have thought that we would have displayed this level of resilience? You know, it's just amazing what we've been through. And so many people have actually thrived, and that's the amazing thing here. And it's lovely to see the likes of this event, and see so many faces in the room. So that is, you know, that to me is something is resilience, and it's really outstanding. What I wanted to share this evening really was the 12 steps of mighty resilience, the way I see it. And that's just going through, for me, what's been probably a 5-year journey, and going through what, as Gary said, has been the Fire in the Valley podcast, writing a book, doing amazing things, and changing my life. And learning and doing the things. So for me, the first step of any part of being mighty resilient is to show up and step up. You know, the very fact that you're here this evening, the very fact that you're open to willing to learn and to try and to ask and to meet people, that in itself is huge. Because there's so many people in so many other places you could be, but actually you've chosen to be here. So that in itself is resilience, the fact that you've decided what to do. The second thing is really, and you've heard this before and you hear it again, is set your damn goals. It sounds crazy, but so many people do not set their goals. If you don't know where you're going, how are you supposed to get there? It sounds crazy, but this is what resilience is. Because resilience comes into play whenever people do get knocked. People do get things happen, pandemics happen, other things happen, life happens. Right? And even just this evening, you know, or today with Bob Proctor passing, stuff happens, right? So it's going through and actually saying, how resilient are you? Where are your goals? And I say to anyone, it's all about having horizon goals. Horizon goals are those that actually are way out in the future. Because if you're not focused on something in the distance and there that you're going towards, you're going to get distracted, you're going to get demotivated by everything that's going on around you. So set your damn goals. Sounds simple. But honestly, it's so key. For anyone, when you are setting your goals, it's not just about 12 months. It's about going into 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And this is where you need to activate your imagination. Because there's no point in inheriting someone else's goals or what you think would be nice. Activating your imagination will change everything for you. And I know it has for so many people I've met. Resilience is a massive game of you versus you. It's so easy to stand here and say, well, I would love to be Gary. I mean, if I could be Gary, my life would be perfect, right? But that's the thing, is so often just you versus you. And it sounds crazy, but so many people are trying to be something else. And they're looking outside of themselves. Generally, when you're doing, you know, understand that actually it's the voice in your head that either slows you down or speeds you up. When you can learn to master yourself, then you can master anything. You know, so many people are looking for approval outside of themselves, looking for recognition, looking, you know, for permission from someone else. Well, if you're looking for permission, I'm happy to give it to you. But actually, the truth is, only you can give it to yourself. So when it comes down to a game of you versus you, how are you playing that? Decide it, genuinely. Because the outer you will seek approval. The outer you is almost where the ego lives. The inner you is really all that matters here. So decide. The next thing is really, number 4, is mastering awareness. We're in a beautiful room here this evening, so much great energy, there's so much going on. Just being very fact of where you are today, being very aware of what's going on and all the possibilities that are here. So mastering awareness allows us just to be present. And I know from the reading group and a number of things that are going on that actually being aware of where we are now. The old saying is the past is history, the future is a mystery. It's actually pretty close. But so many people are living their past in the present and the future. You know, they've decided how the future is going to be. Well, unless you know something I don't, that actually the future is your choice. Decide what you want to do. Be aware of your choices. Be aware of what's going on. Be aware of what you want to do and what your intentions are. Number 5 is mind your language. I was going to put a swear word in there, but I get the opportunity really to speak to so many people. We've done over 450 interviews now, we've released 270 podcasts, and what I've found so often is it comes down to language. Now, words are perfectly imperfect, they're kind of the best of what we've got to try and describe feelings. But the key thing really is, when people actually decide to master their language, it will change their lives, genuinely. I get to hear people, and if I'm hearing goals, or I'm hearing intentions, or I'm hearing what's going on, people saying, I have to do this, or I'm going to do this, or all these things. When we choose to change our language to upgrade it, when we choose to say, I want to do this, I love to do this, I get to do these things, that becomes life-changing. It sounds simple, but believe me, when we actually decide that actually our language will decide where we're going in the future, it tells everyone around you what's going on. We don't have to do anything as such. We get to do these things. We get to turn up the ceiling. We get to actually, I get to speak here in front of everyone here. What a privilege. There's so many opportunities. So when you change your language, it genuinely will change your life. Choose very, very carefully, because it's the language that you hear yourself, it's the language that everyone else hears. And that's really goes down to your goals and everything else that you do. It's absolutely key. The next thing is to reclaim your power. There's a very powerful process called a reclamation process that was actually developed by a guy in Europe. And the principle basically is that actually all emotions are essentially containing energy. Now when we choose to actually feel things that may be classified as negative, we have fear, we have procrastination, we have anxiety, worry, all these things. Well, those are just emotions, those are just energy. And so often people will either manifest or they'll try and say, listen, I'm going to set my goals, I'm going to pretend these things don't exist. What I would actually do, something almost controversial for some people, I would say is actually choose to listen to those emotions. Choose to become aware of your fears. Choose to become aware of your anxieties. That is game-changing. Because when you can reclaim the energy that you spend, when you think about it, so many people have a fear, and then they try not to have a fear, and then they basically go away and they'll manifest or they'll do other things to get away from the fear. The amount of energy spent trying to be or hide those emotions, where in truth, the actual emotions themselves might actually be trying to tell you something. It's like a lot of things in life. Maybe it's actually happening for you, not to you. We're so busy sort of saying we have to do these things or these things are going on. But what if there's actually a lesson that you're supposed to be learning? What if you just changed perspective and said, what's the opportunity here? What can I do? What can I change? Talking about resilience, it's just come back almost to it is the turning up. It's being who you are. I would say to anyone, not everyone knows their purpose, not everyone knows their principles, and that's fine. So what you can choose to do, and I would say to anyone, is become a raving amateur. Now that sounds strange in what it is, but if you don't necessarily know where you're going as such, choose to decide the way you're going to turn up at least. By being a raving amateur, what it is one, the fact that you're turning up with energy, you're turning up with possibility, you're turning up with excitement. Being the amateur, get so caught up and carried away with, we try something once and then we feel that actually we need to be professional. Well, there is that rule that says it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in anything. So when we decide to actually just declare ourselves as a raving amateur, it gives us opportunities to actually make mistakes. It gives us opportunities to actually turn up and ask the question. It may be a silly question, it may be a fantastic question. But what if you just turned up with energy? What if you decided to actually be and lean into all your possibilities? I know for me, from interviewing so many people on the show, that people have, what's my fire in the belly is completely different to someone else's. But when you find that and when you lean into that, it is genuinely game-changing. Anyone who's passionate, and I'm sure we've met anyone, Gary is a fantastic example of someone who's passionate. The energy exudes from somebody that lives in their passion. So when you find that, that in itself will actually change the world. Genuinely, it is life-changing. That's it's been an amazing thing for me. Decide to learn. It sounds strange, but I know for me, 37 and a half years of age, I decided I'd learned all I needed to learn, and that was it. really over the last 5 years, I realise now that I'll be learning to the day I die. All I know is that I don't know, and the more I learn, the more I talk to people, the more I get to read and try, the more I will experience. And that's what this is all about. So many people decide that actually they've learned enough and they don't need to do any more. Well, please, decide to learn, decide to read, find out how you learn. What is your method of taking on information? I know for me, I'm quite open to say that I'm dyslexic and I'm ADHD. So for me, it's listening. I'm a master listener. I will listen at high speed and I'll take it on as much as I possibly can. That for me was game changing. It sounds strange, but I haven't read a book in 10 years. And in the first year that I realised that, I listened to 90 books that first year. Just changing the way you do things. You know, that dead time in the car, that, you know, the time making dinner or doing whatever you're doing. It's an opportunity to learn. Number 9 is to become a master quitter. We all know the stuff that we're doing we shouldn't be doing. It's no mystery. We're either doing it with a poor intention or we're not sure what's going on. Decide to quit. Life is noisy enough. There is so much going on out there. Quit pleasing other people. Quit doing things that don't serve you. Quit giving away your energy. Quit not living to your own standards. It's really quite simple when you look at it that way. And all you can really ask yourself is, how do I feel about certain situations? Because if it's not serving you, please, learn to step away from it. Number 10 is really set your standards. Decide what you want to be. It's really quite simple. When we talk about our goals, here it's saying, decide how you're going to turn up. What is your intention? You know, when you're here, choose to be here. Choose to turn up with the best opportunities. Choose to actually fulfill your goals. Choose to fulfill your potential. I feel like what was that movie? I've forgotten it now. Choose life. You know, but it is genuinely true. When we actually choose our commandments and the standards that we set, you may not necessarily know where you're going, but decide how you're going to turn up. Number 11 has been a very interesting one for me on the podcast, and that is to decide to love yourself and to like yourself. I was shocked how many people that couldn't actually answer the question, do you love yourself? It is generally, for me, it's quite upsetting when people say they don't. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an egotistical way, but the very fact that you are who you are, you've got to love your own being, because if you don't do that, then what chance is somebody else? It's been a game changer for me to actually, I would honestly say probably 90% of the people on my podcast are at least open and willing to say that they love themselves. And they certainly give themselves that patience. Now that's not to say you won't make mistakes or anything else, but the fact that you be patient and loving with yourself. So I'd say to you, ask yourself, do you love yourself? Do you like yourself? And if not, let's ask why. Number 10, is be you. It's very easy to try and be someone else. It's very easy to try and, you know, inherit or look at social media or do anything else. But no matter what, you've only got you here in this life. Life is short. You know, there's a lot going on. We've been through this amazing period of lockdown. It's wonderful to be out. So please just decide to be the best version you can be. Decide to love yourself. Decide to live with passion. Decide to live with finding your value. I want to thank you very much for listening to me this evening and this opportunity.